That's everybody.
Okay.
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 I'm in. Okay. Hello, everybody. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Can you see my name?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Isen Caro Chessin. I'm an artist and an engineer. Sometimes it's hard for me to define myself, so here I've invented some very creative things like art technologist and human computer alchemist, which are not really career names. I just made that up because it's hard to kind of define when someone's all over the place like me. I have a PhD in human informatics from the University of Tsukuba in Japan, and I have a MFA from Parsons in design and technology, same as Paul. And that's where we met, actually. So thank you, Paul, for inviting me. I feel fortunate to talk to all of you today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what we're going to talk about is the human capabilities and how they're limited by the obstacles of our physical condition as humans. There's this physicality about the body that we cannot escape that limits us beyond our imagination. And our imagination can take us to flying across the world, and then with the tools that we create, we are able to do it. I would say that this ambition to expand our senses and to experience further and beyond our bodies is exactly what evolution is. And there's this idea that Hutto pointed out that that the hand extends to touch the world, and we create our hand is in a way it's created because we need to touch. All of our organs develop themselves because of our need and our curiosity to ever more understand the environment around us and absorb it and make it part of us. So I would say that this ambition to extend our senses and our bodies is embedded in the very DNA that tells our evolutionary history. We are adaptable, capable of surviving and thriving, all because of our ingenuity. We are different from other animals, even though we've seen some animals using tools, like, for example, monkeys using sticks to get some ants out of the anthill, or birds making nests, little houses for their eggs. We can clearly see that humans are over-generating. We are overly creating and reshaping and reforming material. We are processing stuff all the time. And this in a way can be, go beyond utility, right? Because one thing is making a nest in order to put your eggs, or having a stick to try to find some ants so that you can eat. And another thing is putting a camera on top of a balloon and wearing a virtual reality immersive display so that you can see a different perspective than your own. So these, in a way, are prostheses that allow us to have an ever more expanded understanding of our surroundings just for the mere fact of curiosity. And so these ideas that are abstract ideas that sometimes don't have utility, we can say that they're called device art, because art is, in a way, this quest for trying to further understand, trying to question things, and and so on, right? Art is not just only an a seeking of an aesthetic experience, but it's rather, you know, a medium for questioning in a physical form as well. So I would say that our devices have made us transformable beings. It has also made us a large connected organism of individuals, each capable of transferring thought from a single tap or click to the rest of the connected humanity. Like bees and ants are in a way networks, and they're entities of a larger entity that is a colony. We need devices in order to become that kind of networked colony. So devices are what distinguish us from other animals. They are what make us human. Here in this image, you see Floating Eye by Iwata Sensei. He was my advisor at the University of Tsukuba. And it's the exact example that I was telling you. It's a Zeppelin that has a camera that is transmitting a different point of view to the user of this round helmet. And there's no reason for it to exist. Maybe we could find a utility for this type of immersive experience, but the reason why it really exists is just because we want to see, because we are curious. Here's Maiwa Denki's instruments, and this is also another example of device art. Device art is a movement that started in Japan, where there was a question about art as a device, not only because sculpture didn't do justice to the contemporary times of what physical things and physical objects have become, because now physical objects have become very interactive, and they've become beyond like when you think of a thing, and you think of a cell phone, for example, a smartphone, which is the most pervasive object that we have with us all the time. It's not just a physical thing that doesn't do anything. It's not just a marble sculpture. It's not just a piece of ceramic. It's moving, and it's interacting, and it has capabilities of beyond just an inanimate object. So beyond that specific aspect of making art in a contemporary language of devices rather than just objects, inanimate objects, there's also this need to, in a way, take art outside of the gallery and put it into the hands of users. And so device art is part of an interactive art. So it's part of new media art because of what I was talking about, the interactivity, but it's also part of the interactive art because you are not only allowed to touch the art, but you're encouraged to touch the art. And device art goes one step further into the hands of people and starts taking kind of a criticism to the museum and the gallery space, because it's in a way a toy, and so it's commercializable. And so there's different aspects of device art that it's in a way a tool for performance because of its interactivity. It's also a tool for playfulness and curiosity expansion. And obviously there's, the sculptural aspect of the initial prototype that would be more considered like an original artwork that would go in a museum and a gallery. And then there's the reproducibility, the replication of this device so that it could be in the hands of anyone and everyone can afford it. And so there's this commercialization aspect to device art that kind of in a way changes the dynamic of art as we know it in a museum. So the human-computer relationship is intertwined and entangled, and when we think of technology, we oftentimes think of a computer, but technology is more than that. Technology is something that we've started a long time ago. Writing is a form of technology. A pencil is technology. The stick that a monkey uses to get the ants is technology. But computers have a different capability. It's a tool that goes beyond, that has computing capacity, that can help us understand and keep track of data. And Sigmund Freud said something really interesting about the tool and man. With every tool, man is perfecting his own organs, whether motor or sensory, or is removing the limits to their functioning. And so here what we can see is the patent of a prosthetic hand. And so we can imagine what a perfect hand would be like. If we've lost a hand and we need to replace it, perhaps we can replace it with a better hand than we had before, or we can completely reconsider what a hand would be, or what could be a better hand. And so with each tool, we can better understand reality, better grasp reality, better have it serve utility and function, and get us closer and closer to experiencing to having new experiences and reaching like the hand that forms so that we can grasp, like the ears that we develop so that we can hear. A phenomenon of our time has also been the quantified self, where devices are not just utilitarian to do things, but we've also taken an interest inwards. So it's not just we're not just using technology as an outward tool for exploring the world outside, but we're also using it as an introspective tool. And so now that medical and diagnostic tools are so cheap, they're being worn as a fashionable accessory. We are now using body data as entertainment. It's now also capital. Companies can use our heart rate or the amount of times we go for a walk or the places where we would go for a walk, or how active we are, or how close to sound pollution we are, to track us and capitalize on us. But we ourselves also use the same data to capitalize. And in a way, we capitalize so that we can have an awareness of our adaptation and our evolution. And so, in a way, we are co-evolving with machines. So these fashionable accessories that before were medical devices and diagnostic tools can track the heart rate and perspiration and sleep quality. I mean, you can imagine how incredible it is that something that you had to pay thousands and thousands, maybe millions of dollars before, are now on everybody's wrists. And these devices give us a new intimate scope, which give us more information about ourselves, and it's feedback. So as consumers embrace the commodification of the quantified self, and we become more eager to adopt new sensory avenues, which is normal because, as I said, the eyes that we've developed to see are in tune to the frequencies that we need in order to see, right? So we are constantly evolutionarily trying to enhance and adapt to our environment. And so these devices are kind of our allies, and we have, in a way, become codependent so that we can co-adapt and co-evolve. So we collect innumerable amounts of data and to expand our motor abilities, and we seek these tools so that we can have a fuller experience and more perceptual awareness. So the growing interest in biometrics-oriented devices is an exemplary phenomena to the motives that drive co-adaptive computer experiences and the interactive design of cognizant human evolution. And so, in a way, every time that we design a human-computer interface, we are consciously designing our evolutionary process, even though we may not actually be thinking about that specifically. We are doing so by adapting the human body and expanding our own abilities. So this eager adoption provides an outlook on the direction in which humans are co-evolving with their machines and reveals the collective yet intimate demand for experiential intensification. There's this need that we have, I don't know where it comes from, but we just want to have new experiences. There's a thrill about feeling something that you've never felt before. Trying a new ice cream flavor that you've never tried before. I know that when I traveled to China, it was so exciting and I was so ready to experience all these new things. Trying different flavors and trying new things. I think that that's exactly what makes us the adaptable beings that we are, is this need to go further, this need to continue exploring. So the plasticity of the mind and sensory substitution devices. Sensory substitution devices are devices that allow us to perceive the world in a different way than we're used to, but getting information that we're used to having from one sense and getting it from another. And this exemplifies the plasticity of the mind. So the combination of human-computer interaction and brain plasticity provide tools for useful for achieving sensory substitution. So in a way, these are sensory mixing techniques that allow us to experience this adaptability of the brain, to see how the brain can, in a way, on the spot, adapt and learn to see the world through a different sense. So as participants of assistive device art engage with sensory remodeling devices, they rechannel their senses. So what we can assume that humans walk upright, they talk, and they have the possibility to sense a spectrum between 430 and 770 tetrahertz of the visible and 20. Sorry? Was that a question? Between 20 and 20,000 hertz of audible electromagnetic frequency. So visual information and audible information are all the same thing. They are part of the electromagnetic spectrum, right? So at one side you have audible waves, which you can see here on the right, and the other side you have visible waves, and they are just all waves the same. It's just that they have a different size, they have a different frequency range. So these are all normal human abilities that can be supported by utilitarian technologies, right? So what about disabilities or talent, right? What about somebody who can hear just a little bit higher pitch than normal humans? Because when we say that we can hear from 20 to 20,000 hertz, we're talking about a general statement about human experience. It's not true that we can all hear 20 to 20,000. There are people who have talents, who are incredibly talented and can hear infrasounds and obviously within reason, not too much. But there are also people who can't hear at all, who simply cannot understand audible information. So disabilities is what we call that. And in a way that allows for humans to have a completely different experience, because by not hearing, they are experiencing the world just as intensely, just as vividly as anyone else that have a different palette of senses. So, are we striving to remain within these capabilities? Do we just want to stay between 20 to 20,000 hertz? How do these traits inform the path of our adaptability and human-computer coevolution? I would say that the phenomena of electric enhancement to the body makes some forms of disability desirable. Can you imagine how fast some of these runners that use these prosthetic legs can go? I remember hearing that a lot of these runners can go so much faster than people with normal human legs because they're made specifically for running and they're lighter weight and they don't get tired. So is it crazy to think that maybe not having legs would be desirable if you're a runner and if your biggest desire in life is to run as fast as humanly possible? At which extent are we willing to modify our bodies to incorporate technology that, while enhances us, temporarily disable us? So, are we willing to incorporate technology so much that we lose our sight faster? I don't really know this because I haven't read any papers about it yet, but I have a feeling that by me looking at my phone all the time and sitting in front of my computer screen ever more than ever now with the pandemic that we have to be online all the time, I'm actually getting disabled faster than if I didn't have the technology. So we're obviously willing to give up some of our current human abilities to incorporate technology. But how far? To what extent are we willing to go to modify our bodies to incorporate technology? How can we gain new sensibilities without the danger of loss? Does it mean that by gaining a new sense, we are losing another one? Because when we see the brains of blind individuals, we can see that they still use their visual cortex, but they use it in a different way. Or we know that somebody who's deaf has an enhanced visual perception for motion because it's their way of kind of surviving in the world. And so if people who have disabilities sometimes have a better ability with other senses or other senses, does it mean that we have to lose one of our senses, that the attention of our brain is such that we may have to, um, let go of one to gain another? Human adaptability is guided by a technological coevolution. Human-computer interaction guides the balance between the switches that add and or subtract human abilities, and as it tailors our bodily extensions, should be crafted with careful consideration, by which extent it is assistive or disabling. This, I don't know if you guys know this artist. His name is Sterlach, and he is an incredible artist who explores the human computer interaction, the human machine fusion. And this particular piece is called The Third Arm. And here he has created a robotic arm that he's able to control with his muscles. And so he's added a new prosthetic hand without having to remove one of his real arms. And so I wonder if we were to incorporate another limb, um, if we would lose the ability of using or if we would lose ability of our actual limbs in order so that we can incorporate another one. I don't know if you guys have ever questioned aliens, that when we depict aliens in cartoons or in movies, we always give them three fingers. And I remember questioning that once, and um somehow I came to the conclusion, by asking around and so on, that we would have three fingers if we were aliens or if we had developed and become more advanced, because we don't really use our pinky and our ring finger. We mainly use the thumb, the index, and the middle finger at last, or maybe one of those three. And so why do we need five? We only need three. Or, um, so if we had 10 fingers on each hand, would we be more dexterous? Or would we be less because we'd have more things to pay attention to? So about that I was saying, to do with seeing with the blind individual having a visual understanding of the world anyway, but not having eyes to see, is because we don't see with our eyes, we see with our brain. And this was said by Paul Bacarita, who is actually one of the fathers of sensory substitution. So I'd like to do an exercise with you guys, and it's about memory and experience. So the neuroplasticity and sensory substitution theories suggest that the brain is moldable and adaptable based on conditional circumstances, such as the change in behavior or environment. So, take, for example, a person who was born blind. They cannot see. They were born without the ability to see. And suppose that they only knew objects by other sensory phenomena. For example, they only knew the sound of things, the way things smell, the way things travel in time, how fast they are, how they feel, if they're smooth, if they're hot, if they're painful. And so they know a ball by the smell and the touching, the tactile information. So imagine that one day this person who knows a ball only by touch and by smell and by sound alone opens their eyes one day and they're able to see. Do you think that they would be able to recognize a ball just by seeing it without touching it or smelling it or hearing it? It's a question. Maybe some of you can answer yes or no. Hello? Okay. Okay, so I guess, can you guys hear me? Okay, you're all muted. I hope you can hear me. All right, so I'll tell you the answer without you telling me the answer. So the answer is no. A person who only knows a ball by the touch and the smell and the sound can't see that ball and understand that it's a ball because it's a learning experience of association. So that person may know a ball by touching it or by smelling it, and may know that both the smell and the touch and the tactile information belong to the ball. But they don't make the association with the visual cue until they have an experience. And it would take a total of 10 minutes for that person to have that visual experience plus touching it and smelling it for them to now forever know that that is a ball visually. And this was Molyneux's sensory mapping philosophical problem. And he made this question in 1688. And it wasn't until the 2000s when Paul Sina from MIT started making the experiment with children in India who were congenitally blind and suddenly were able to see because they were blind for reasons that were easily curable. And he was curing them, he was doing the surgery on them, and he was able to answer this question that was posed in 1688. So, we would say that research up to the present has led to the demonstration of reliable prototypical devices that use sensory substitution to restore sensory function. There are 3 envisioned paths for future development, and this is Paul Bacarita and Kersel who wrote about sensory substitution and the human-machine interface. And these are the 3 paths for the future of sensory substitution devices. First, that and most urgent, the development must be robust, inexpensive, and accessible to a wide range of patients suffering sensory loss. So they were concerned with making sure that this will work, that it's going to be useful and accessible. Second, beyond restoring the senses, it should be possible to use the same technology to expand human sensibilities. And in a way, this is what assistive device art is about. For example, enabling the use of night vision apparatus without interfering with normal vision. And so he was envisioning that from these assistive technologies, we could create we could expand human sensibility. So what works for someone who is missing a sense or a sensory ability can work for another human to enhance sensory ability. And the whole range should be non-invasive and low risk experiments that gain a deeper understanding of brain plasticity and cognitive processes. And here you have Paul Bacarita and his devices. He invented the brain port, which is this device that you see on the top. And it's a pair of goggles with a camera, and the camera will take video feedback of its surroundings, and then the device will turn that image into black and white, and then that black and white matrix will then be translated into electric impulses, and so you can see a visual map of electricity in your tongue. And so he also created one that goes on the back. And so you can feel the protrusions of a matrix on your back. So what does this mean? How can you see through your tongue? What is that all about? As I was saying earlier, it is known that blind people use The visual cortex. We are visual beings. We are visual beings. Our most important sense is vision. We rely on it tremendously for survival. Um, and blind people are also very visual. When blind people see Braille, it starts firing up their brain signals, and they in the visual cortex, and there's a visual spatial map in their brain where they translate the information that they are feeling through tact. And there's also evidence that memory is spatial, and spatial is in a way visual. And we know that in human echolocation, when blind subjects use echolocation to travel through space, they in a way have a visual map of their surroundings. And so they can see with sound, and they can also see with touch. And so we come back to what assistive device art is. So assistive device art is about empowering diverse realities. It's about mixing these three key things: cross-modal psychology, which is all about sensory substitution. Cross-modality means, crossing the senses. So using audition to see or using touch to see. Assistive technology, which is the technology that we've been seeing here, all the prosthetics, all of the perceptual prosthetics, like the brain port, as well as interactive art and design. And that's what makes it different from assistive technology by itself, because they seek to expand the sensory experience of human-computer interaction just for curiosity alone, and not just to restore any kind of sensation or any kind of ability. It's in a way to expand those, and to expand them without necessarily having utility. And so here is kind of a map of assistive device art and the playful self-discovery of human expansion. So we have brain plasticity prototypes, which do the transformation of ability and perception, where we develop new skills, where we feel unusual sensory experiences, and where we plug and play with our visual cortex. And then we have cross-modal psychology, where we are expanding visual spatial skills specifically for navigation and object location. And then we have the experimentation and testing versus interactive art, where not only are these assistive devices demoed in exhibitions, they're also tested through scientific methods. So it's art put in the context of science and engineering. And then utility. So how can they be useful beyond just the actual utility? So wearable physiology integration and perceptual cohesion. So assistive device art is a term that I invented because I needed to talk about assistive technology and device art as a point of departure for new perceptual experiences. Because if art is about questioning the perceptual abilities of the human mind, and aesthetic experiences and understanding aesthetics, and kind of indulging our senses beyond just beauty, they could be just for questioning as well, or correlating parody and conceptual constructs, then can we use devices as like the contemporary medium and push them through to assistive technology? So ADA, Assistive Device Art, is a definition for the emerging cultural phenomena that integrates assistive technology and art. Because beyond my own personal work, I have seen many other artworks that deal with prosthetics and that deal with this human expansion, this need for wearable technology. These works of art involve the mediation of sensorimotor functions and perception as they relate to their psychophysical methods and conceptual mechanics of sensory embodiment. Psychophysical methods refers to psychophysics, which is the science of kind of measuring the thresholds of how far we can see, what colors we can see, what's the highest frequency we can hear. For example, if you've ever listened to the test of the audio test where they have different beeps and then you can hear to a certain frequency and then you can't hear anymore because you're getting old, for example, that is a psychophysics, the study and the science of sensory perception. Embodied cognition defines all experience as not merely an informational exchange between environment and the mind, but rather as an interactive transformation. So it's not just an exchange. We're not just saying, okay, here's information, let me take it, but you're actually transforming every time that you are perceiving information. ADA tools serve the participant as introspective portals to reflect on the process of agency and tool incorporation. And so a lot of these tools, the idea is that you're able to go inside yourself and understand how it is that you perceive the world. So they, in a way, give you a portal to see how you are incorporating outside things and making them part of your body. These cognitive prosthetic devices become ever more incorporated with practice, more transparent, enhancing our ability to rewire our perception. So they're also a way for us to mold the mind. And so they're not just devices that are sculpted. There are devices that are sculpted. There are devices that transform us. There are devices that make us perform for ourselves and sculpt our mind as we are experiencing them. This art form interfaces electromechanically and biological with a participant. It is functional and assistive, and its purpose is furthermore a means for engaging the plasticity of their perceptual constructs. And so here we have the idea that it's not just functional and assistive, that it's also kind of a conceptual transformation when we wear these devices. Because they're not just, it's not only, just because a prosthetic is a prosthetic leg doesn't mean that there's no cognitive prosthetic aspect to it, because you have to incorporate it as part of your body. And so the sensory aspect of it makes it so that it is cognitive and not just, in a way, just a leg or just a hand. Not just motor, it's also perceptual. Assistive device artworks are performances that reveal the plasticity of the mind, while it is actively incorporating, replacing, and enhancing sensory motor functions. ADA centralizes and empowers the urge to transcend bodily limitations. And this is what I was talking about in the beginning, where we are, in a way, as we evolve, trying to escape the body that we have, because it's the limitation to the imagination that we have, this drive to keep going, this drive to see further, this drive to explore the world and sense ever more vividly. Both from necessity, because sometimes we just need to walk. Sometimes we just need to reach out and grab something to put in our mouths to survive, but also as a means to playfully engage with expansion, to just see for curiosity alone. While assistive technology is designed to specifically aid and perhaps restore functions, an assistive device artwork is concerned with the playful means by which an experience forms perceptual awareness, and it is designed for a diverse participant base with an experiential basis by which all participants can expand their perception regardless of their need for restorative device. And so this is what I was saying, the difference between assistive technology is that you don't need art. We don't need assistive device art, but we use it as a way to experience new phenomena. So here we have a framework of questions that I think about when I'm creating a new assistive device artwork, or when I am looking at an assistive device artwork and try to kind of further understand where this term fits in within our culture and the phenomena of the permeation of transcendence of the human body and the human condition and the integration with humans and machines. Here we have Bob Spence, who actually lost his eye. I can't remember the story he told me, but I forgot, and I'm really sorry about that because he's a wonderful man. But he is a documentary filmmaker, sorry, and he lost his eye, and so when that happened, he obviously had to get a prosthetic. Well, he didn't really have to, but he got a prosthetic, for aesthetic reasons. He just got a peg in his eye and he got a glass eye. And being a filmmaker, he had the wonderful situation or condition where he was able to playfully put the camera literally in his eye. And so he worked with Dr. Ling in Scotland, and they together created an analog camera that was put in his prosthetic eye, glass eye. And so he can literally film through his eye socket, a perspective that had been impossible before. This is a completely new perspective for film, which is incredible because we have this experience all the time. We can see through our eyes and our eyelids block the light. And so when we blink, we see us blinking. But the fact that he was able to film a documentary through his eye gave a completely different experience to filmmaking. The interesting thing about this is that even though we are in the age of digital technology, well, this is an analog camera. It's an NTC and it's radio operated because in order for us to have digital technology for a camera, it takes way too much processing power, and it would make it a device so big that he wouldn't be able to put it in a glass eye. And so because radio only consists in frequencies and antennas, and it doesn't actually have to use an analog to digital transformer, he was able to transmit what the camera was seeing in an analog way directly to a screen. And he actually filmed a documentary through his eye. So this, in a way, is an assistive device artwork because it doesn't actually help him do anything. It's an assistive device artwork because it's an assistive technology where it's a prosthetic device, but it's actually creating a new way of seeing, and not just for him, but for the entire world, where he can use the perspective of his own eye to film. So back to the framework of questions. Number one is, are modes of perception adaptable via devices? I think we know that they are, but this is always a good question, like how far are we believing that we are changing perception? And then it goes into all the philosophical ideas of what perception is. And whether the incorporation of devices can be just as well part of our body. Isn't all technology assistive in its capacity and purpose as a tool? And so this is more a question about assistive technology in general and the term of assistive technology, because all technology is assistive. So technically we're all disabled because none of us can survive without our phones anymore, etc. Can assistive device art tools enhance people's understanding of what constitutes skill and ability? So can we really transform skill? Can we really help people understand what it means to have an ability or to not have an ability? Are ADA desirable tools? Do people want them? Do people want assistive technology? Is this a way for us to make assistive technology so cool that people want to chop their arm or simply start wearing an assistive device like braces? Can we make braces be cool? And you think about it, and we actually have an example of that. Sunglasses are an assistive technology that has been made cool and super fashionable. Everyone that wears sunglasses feels super cool, and you have all kinds of pairs that match your style and that match, your outfit. I mean, some people only have one pair, but either way, it's an example of how assistive technology is desirable. Can they create an alternative demand for prosthetics? Can we create a demand for prosthetics where it's not an assistive device anymore, but rather an enhancement device, if you look at it that way? How necessary is it for ADA tools to be functional versus vaporware? I don't know if you're familiar with this term vaporware. Vaporware is something that is used in the industrial design industry where it's, for example, that model car that hasn't come out that you see all over the internet that is so freaking awesome and it never comes out because it wasn't real and they just designed it and 3D modeled it and that's it. That's vaporware. So is it important for them to be functional, these assistive device art tools? I would argue that they should be. And to make art that is useful technologically is a challenge, and you have to, sometimes collaborate. But I think that it's very important that they are functional, but it's still a question. Is it really? What alternative perceptual methods are useful in computing? So can we, if we were to not rely so much on computer screens, but rather other modes of information assimilation, what other ways could those be? And could other perceptual methods help us in perceiving or like learning or getting the feedback from computing devices? And is there a possible way to achieve non-subtractive super abilities with non-invasive technology? That goes back to that question that I had, whether we can incorporate things without and have like infinite attention for new perceptual pathways. So if we had 10 fingers, would we be more dexterous than if we had 5? And could the ability to assimilate information with alternative modes of perception be useful to everyone? So here I'm going to give you some examples of assistive device artworks that I created myself. And this is very old work by now, but it is nonetheless my work that started this whole idea of assistive device art. And so here we have 4 projects. One of them is a watch that tells time with scent, and it's starting here on the left. And it's olfaction to chronoception, which is the sensation and the feeling of time. Then we have a mouthpiece, and that is taking somatoception, which is the sense of tactile information of haptic information into into audition. So this is an MP3 player that plays music through your teeth, through bone conduction. And then we have Audition to Vision in the echolocation headphones. So these headphones allow you to listen to space. So in a way, using audio for vision. And then we have the Pop Matrix, which is a kind of a lollipop looking device that is the recreation of Paul Bacarita's tongue display unit, because I couldn't believe that you could see through your tongue. And so I had to recreate it. And those are somatoception, which is again the feeling of touch, to gustation, which is to taste, and also to vision. And to tell you more about the Pop Matrix, they provide an electro-visual experience through your tongue. And the way that it does that is I created a computer program where you could map, for example, make a T or draw like an X, and then it would turn on these electrodes and turn off the rest. And so when you have your tongue and pass through it, you can feel whether there's a T or an X. And I don't know if you've ever licked an 9-volt battery, but it's similar to that, except that this is only 5 volts, so it's less voltage. But anyway, what it does is that it kind of creates braille for your tongue. So what I discovered with Paul Bacarita's work and sensory substitution and the tongue display unit is that the tip of your tongue is the best to understand the shape. It's not in the flatness, like part of your tongue. You can't really see there. You have to use the tip of the tongue, and in the same way that you would use your finger to read Braille. And then I got inspired by Daniel Kish. Daniel Kish is a blind man who uses echolocation to navigate space. This guy can ride a bicycle and know how far he is from a house and know if there's bushes, simply by clicking his tongue. And he goes like, and with these clicks, we hear them and we're just like, okay, whatever. But he can read the entire spatial print that it reverberates. And so I created the echolocation headphones. And what I'm doing here is that I'm using, it's called an ultrasonic, what do you call this? Speaker, sorry. And what it does is that it uses all these intermittent ultrasonic waves with a carrier wave. And so it's almost like a laser of sound, if you can imagine that. Where if you had a flashlight or if you had a small red pointing laser and you passed it around the room, you would see it only when it was on the wall, right? Because unlike a flashlight, right, you can see a lot bigger than just the little red dot, but a laser stays a dot. And so this speaker uses this phenomena where, ultrasound is a smaller sound wave than audible sound, right? And so because it's smaller, it's more focused. And so by using 2 ultrasonic sound waves, it can kind of detangle an audible signal out of it. So if you have 40,000 hertz, and 40,000 hertz plus Madonna, for example, whatever that frequency is of that song, maybe like a Virgin, for example, then when in the middle of the air, while they're intermittently passing 40 hertz and negative 40 hertz with Madonna, they detangle, and whatever is left is the audible signal of Madonna. And so, in a way, it is also like a finger of sound by which you can touch the surroundings, so that you can see and understand space with sound. And in a way, it gives you a property of sonic vision. It's a focal echo by which we can see. And then I got inspired by these World War I listening devices, which you can see are these big antennas and these big dishes that they're wearing near their ears so that they can amplify the focus of the audible signal. And so that's why I created that those plates in the back of the ears. And so as you can see here in these waves, the little pink waves would be what the speaker is transmitting. And then what you would hear back is the bigger audible signal. And so depending on how loud or how faint it is, you know how far you are from the wall, for example, so that you don't run into it, or whether you are looking at a piece of glass or just the wall, because you can differentiate materials as well, because sound, as it bounces off of a surface, it changes the properties. This is the first project that I was talking about, which is the watch that tells time with scent. And it's a timekeeping device that maps the olfaction to the circadian cycle. And the idea is to kind of put you on time. And so what it does is that it has 4 different phases, which are 6 hours long each. And they emit different scents, such as, for example, for rising in the morning, it will have the scent of coffee. During the day, when you have to be alert, so around 12 o'clock, so between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m., it'll give you the smell of money. And I did that by mixing tarnish smell with paper. And then for the evening, like once you get after 4 and 6 p.m. and before 9, you want to unwind and relax. And so it smells like whiskey and tobacco. And so when you're close after 9, between 12 and 3 a.m., you're supposed to be sleeping. And so it gives you some chamomile and something to relax. And so the idea that smells can kind of put you on time is because they're related to memory, and not only because they're related to memory, but also because they are chemical senses. So we know that chemicals, for example, coffee can make you wake up, as well as melatonin can make you feel sleepy. And so not only are these just smells, but they're also mixed with neurotransmitters such as melatonin and caffeine that would actually chemically put you on a specific time. And the beauty of this watch is that it doesn't just only tell you the time based on the smell, which is not very accurate, of course, because there's only 4 of them. You can put yourself in the time that you need to be. So if you're falling asleep, say at 4 p.m., you can get a dose of caffeine or coffee and whiff it up to wake up. Here's another project, which is the Player Grill, which allows you to listen through your teeth. So it uses bone conduction to help you listen to sound. So because the teeth are so embedded in the jaw, and the jaw is so close to our inner ear bones, the vibration of the sound can excite the inner ear bones, and so we can hear through our teeth. And so this is kind of a parody with the rapper R&B cultural device of grills, which is these like golden and diamond crusted mouthpieces, which also have a weird relation to assistive technology because they are in a way looking almost like braces. But but they don't have any functionality to help the teeth be straight. They're just a place to display wealth. And so using that, and it's not only it's not only related to wealth, but it's also specifically related to this cultural identity that is very well mixed with music. And so I thought that in order to make those more useful and more assistive to rappers, we can then make them into MP3 players so they can listen to music through their teeth. And so this is the second version of that. And as you can see here, it's transparent. And so I've moved away from the gold shiny grill and I've made it more into a functional device. And it's using these vibrating motors instead of speakers, because motors and speakers are the same thing. They are electromagnets. And so if you pass a music, in other words, a frequency modulation, you can hear it. It can make a motor will vibrate the same way that a speaker would. The electromagnet would vibrate. But instead of having a membrane that would be pushed back and forth to push the sound waves, it would just stay silent because it's not moving the air. But if you put this vibrating motor to the vibrating frequency of sound onto your teeth, then you're able to hear it, because then it doesn't need air to travel to your inner ear bones and your inner and your audible nerve. It will just simply excite those inner ear bones to the same frequency, and so you can hear. And lastly is a new artwork that is called the Yaruka Tact, which is giving a parallel sense of touch underwater. And for this one, I'm using the sense of touch as a way to navigate space beyond actual touch. So you can see this gray thing that's hanging under the wrist, and that is an ultrasonic sensor. And so that senses the space underneath. And these finger pieces use the same water that is surrounding them and pushing them onto the fingertips. And so the closer you are to an object, the more pressure you will feel on your fingertips. And this is not really useful. I thought it would maybe useful for floods where you're trying to search for things underwater. But that tactile aspect of it is not necessarily useful, except if you're, like, for example, in Venice, where you can't see anything because it's murky water. And so it's device art in a way, and it's assistive in a way, because it allows us to experience that parallel sense of touch. And here are some diagrams that better explain the functionality of it. Here in the top left, you can see the sensor sensing downwards, and then the feedback coming up, and then the way that I've designed it so that when you move your wrist upwards, you can sense the wall in parallel. And here you can see how the water enters through this chamber, and it has an impeller, which instead of pushing away the liquid, it suctions it, and so it moves down towards the fingertip. And that's how I created a new haptic display. And so haptics is the display of tactile information and haptic information. The same as a screen is the display of visual information, and a speaker is the display of audible information. And so this is a completely new haptic sensory device. Haptic display device that functions for water. And I wanted to show you guys this because it's something that I've been struggling with after doing a doctorate and trying to understand the functionality of art and the validity of experience, because I've had to go further and further into psychophysics and understanding experience, not just from a sensory, ethereal kind of philosophical way, but also in a very scientific and nitty-gritty way. And so here I am measuring how fast this display can push water through. This is me measuring how far it goes on a tube that is glued to the wall. And this is the head. And this is the intensity of force, where measuring in newtons all the different levels of intensity that you can feel through your finger. And I don't want to scare you, but this is what it looks like when you're trying to prove that what you're doing actually feels a certain way. And this is how it's perceived. And this is the accuracy of sensation by different users. And this is how I have assessed if people can feel and understand how far they are from a wall inside of a pool. And so we did 3 different experiments where we put the subjects in 3 different places, and then we asked them to approximate how far they were from the walls of the pool. And here's a picture of a participant, and Takeshi Ozu, who was my collaborator for the Yaruka Tact project. And so in conclusion, ADA was presented as a framework by which to classify, design, and evaluate technology within the cross-section of art and assistive technology. It's a method by which to innovate digital display technology, and a way of reflecting on our perception through physical and sensory extensions. It takes inspiration from atypical physiologies and multimodal experiences, and presents cognitive prosthetics that provide an experiential sensory transformation that instigates participants to contemplate on what is skill and what is ability, and on the plasticity of human bodies and our relationship to technology for coevolution, really. And this art reimagines our future bodies, proposing new avenues for human-computer integration, often camouflaging itself as consumer products, indulging in the illusion of escaping our experiential reality. And it also measures the public's willingness to engage with assistive technology while they seek to enhance their experience. ADA investigates the limits of a mediated embodiment by reframing the user base of assistive technology and making it desirable to a broader public. So I will leave you with this question on how would you like to be physiologically enhanced, and what kind of interfaces you would like to create, and where your imagination takes you as far as experiencing new sensations and going further than your body allows you to go as humans with the help of human computer interaction. And I don't know if I should keep going because I have more I
Yes.
have more. You want me to keep going, Paul?
Yes, I think you can keep going. Yes, if you like to.
Okay. Because
Yeah,
I
I'm
want to
super
go
curious.
into what sorry?
Yeah, I'm super curious about.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. It's so hard when you do a lecture like this because I can't see how many people are sleeping. Um or
Yeah, it's very
smiling.
important. Yeah, you can see me. You can see me. Yeah, I will open my camera. At least you can see me.
I can't see anybody because I'm seeing the slides, but I hope that
Yeah.
everybody's happy
You can
and
speak
understanding.
in if you can change the mode, you can actually say how many people on the meeting room. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
If you move your mouse to the top.
Oh, yeah. Hello, people. There are people.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Hey.
Hello. I hope I hope you're enjoying. Okay, I'm gonna go back
Yeah.
to full screen and I'm gonna continue.
Okay.
Um, so uh my day job now, so I don't know um where you guys hope to go after you do your art degrees. I'm guessing that if you're seeing school with Paul, that you're trying to get skills that go beyond just making art and trying to be a little bit utilitarian about your skills, which I 100% recommend because it's so hard to be an artist in this world, even though some of us are fortunate enough to do so as a career. A lot of times it can be very difficult.
Oh.
And so, yeah. And so my day job, like a lot of us have to have, is I work at the University of Texas medical branch where I run the Maker Health Space, which is a prototyping lab. And here's a picture of
Wow.
me there. And here what we do is we take the ideas of doctors and nurses that they have for us for devices, medical devices, and we prototype them. And we also take, for example, this is a really bad 3D print. I'm sure some of you are familiar with 3D printing. But what we do is we take, we can take CT scans and MRIs, and we can 3D print them so that patients can see, for example, like their aortic aneurysms and things like that. And we also do a lot of surgery simulation organs. So we essentially make sculptures where surgeons can practice surgery. And I don't actually have a picture of that here, but I should show you later. And so what we do is we prototype the device and then we help them go through the process of innovation that we have at the university. So we take them to the Office of Technology Transfer, which is the people that patent the ideas, and then we help them kind of understand whether their idea is viable in the market. And so we help them go through the entire process, including publication and dissemination of their idea. And we are really encouraging people to do their own startups. And I wanted to talk to you specifically about this project because in a way, it's kind of assistive device art, and in a way, I'm mixing my artwork and my work now at the university. And it's with thanks to this COVID pandemic, we invented Eurus, which is a pressure cuff actuated emergency use resuscitator system. And I know that sounds like a lot of words that make no sense, but it's essentially a ventilator that is using it's a manual ventilator that is using a blood pressure cuff. So using medical devices that we have around the hospital to make an automated ventilator. And so it's an emergency ventilation system designed for resilience, adaptability, and safety with medical supplies and common electronics components. And so the way that this happened was because we saw doctors making the impossible decisions of giving ventilators only to patients under 60. In Italy, we saw doctors pleading for help for more ventilators because their people were dying and they didn't have enough equipment to give it to everyone. And so they were, anyway, in a way, allowing people who were more than 60 years old to die. And so this very painful realization kind of propelled us to design this ventilator. And so we created Eurus, and using medical equipment. And when we started, they showed this clip of I think that it's an Apollo 13 or something like this, a movie about how they had a problem with a filter in NASA and in the space station, and so they kind of find everything that they have in the space station and try to see how they can put any of that stuff together in order to save or to make a new filter. And so in a way, we try to use as many hospital equipment as possible to recreate the ventilator. And so here you can see this is a manual resuscitator, and it's called an ambu bag because it's what they use in the ambulance to give air to the patient before they get to the hospital. And here's the box. It's using an Arduino and some valves. And so it takes the air from the patient rooms. Usually all patients' rooms have air and they have vacuum. And so with each valve, we're controlling the air, and then we're controlling the vacuum. And so it inflates and then it quickly deflates so that the ambu bag can reinflate and give air to the patient automatically. And so it's a scalable design that can be assembled rapidly by medical and clinical staff that is safe, effective, and reliable. And, we realize that emergency situations call for creative action. So I'm talking to you, a kind of fractalized room, because you're not in a room, but a network of creatives, of people who can think outside the box and who can solve problems in ways that you've never seen them solved before, because you can imagine another kind of world. And so emergency situations need artists and creative people more than ever, to be flexible and to work with regulatory bodies. In this case, we had to work with the FDA so that we can understand how to make it safer and how to make sure that we were complying essentially with all the rules that being a medical design have to comply with. And then the community support and collaborative expertise. Collaboration is key. As soon as we came up with this idea and we published it on the web, people from all over were coming to us trying to offer their help. We had Accenture, NASA, Airgas, Geospace, U of H, NIST. Everybody was rooting for us and trying to help and give a little bit of their expertise so that they can also help and try to make an emergency ventilator. And so how can this be useful beyond the pandemic? We filed a patent, and so it's patent pending. But we figure that it will maybe be good for better ambulatory services, so that the people in the ambulance don't have to give manually air. And we also think that this could be a lightweight ventilator kit for remote locations like tent hospitals, or even a lot lower cost for countries that may not have as many resources. And with that, it's my last project that I wanted to share with you guys, and kind of what I've been doing lately at the University of Texas in the medical branch. And thank you very much. 谢谢. I'm back.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Yes, please.
Yes. 那同学们，
Thank
那
you.
现在大家有什么问题啊？如果要问的话，可以问 Ason 啊。I think this lecture is a lot of the information that's blow our mind. You know, we saw.
Wow. Thank you, Paul.
那现在那现在大家如果有问题啊，就可以提问啊。如果需要中文提问的话呢，我也可以代为翻译啊。如果我翻译的可以的话，也许可以翻译。大家可以现在提问。有人有问题吗？有问题的话可以打字说，或者是也可以在那个直接就是打开语音讲。那个庞博，我看到你拍的视频，你有什么问题吗？你静音了，庞博，你要开声音。
哦，那个，稍等一下，稍等一下。
OK。
不好意思，
在我线上讲。
不好意思，我刚去给我室友开了个门。
有什么问题吗？要问一下。
就是我看到刚才老师他那个 PPT 里，就是有很多关于像，说开拓一个假如比如说开拓自己，就是让自己的想法，比如说我现在是有视力的，然后也是有嗅觉这样子，那有没有可能就是说去让我一个本来就有这种感觉的人去体验那种完全自己没有经历过的那种感觉？
那我问一下。So, Asen, so our
可能
student.
我的问题可能有点凌乱。
Yeah, his question actually is very interesting. He is asking how we can extend or enhance our experience. For example, for example, we can say, we can smell, we can taste, but what else we can experience? If there's an impossible, we can enhance our experience.
Okay, 谢谢. I know one way that we have already expanded our sensory palette. If you think of all of our senses as different color paints, I know of a new one that an artist created, and that is the magnetic sense. For example, he created I think it's called the North Belt. And so what he's done is he's put a belt that vibrates to where north is all the time. So he's become like a compass. And so when he moves this way, it'll vibrate here. When he moves this way, it'll vibrate here. When he moves this way, it'll vibrate here. And so he always knows where north is. So that's a way to incorporate and know where north is. And that's normally we don't know where north is. We need a device to tell us. So a good way to know how we can expand our senses is to either look in nature to find what other beings can sense. For example, sharks can feel electricity. So if we were to, create some sort of prosthetic, for example, people that put magnets inside their fingers, they can feel electromagnetic fields, and so they can feel electricity, similar to what sharks can feel. So we can look into nature to see other sensations, or we can look into devices to see what else we are already incorporating. So, yeah. But we need sensory substitution anyway in order to understand it. And maybe in the evolutionary future, we will develop a, bodily, sense for it. Like, our eyes evolved because of light. It's not that we have eyes just because. We have eyes because light exists, and we need to feel light so we can see, you know? So if there are new information that evolutionarily we will need, our bodies will naturally develop senses to feel that. But because we are integrating with technology and we're conscious about our evolution and our body and conscious about how far we want to go and experience new things, we can change that more immediately with technology. So
Thank you. I will translate. 那刚刚既然就是 Ason 有说到一个很好的例子，叫做指南皮带。那这个皮带呢，就是可以让人感知到我们的磁场。那它是怎么做的呢？就是这个皮带，当你转身的时候啊，它的里面皮带上面就会有一些震动，让你感觉到哪边是它是那个指南针嘛，就是指南的一个。它的建议就是如何要拓展我们的感知，可以有2个方向。一个就是我们去看我们的这个自然界里面很多的像动植物啊，它们都会有一些超能力哦，就比如说像鲨鱼可以感知到电力，就是鲨鱼它是能够在水里面它能感到电的啊，有电的这种感觉的。那我们如果去看到一些自然里面生物知道的这些能力，我们就可以把它加强到我们人类这个身上，这是一种。还有一种就是说，你可以观察已有的一些装置里面已经有的一些能力。是不是能够跟我们人体去进行叠加？就比如说我们的像电脑，我举个例子啊，就比如说电脑，我们的手机里面的一些我们的这种传感的这种设备，那比如说 AR 眼镜，就是把显示屏跟我们的这个叫增强现实嘛，把我们的眼睛里面看到的东西进行叠加，这是另外一个方向。那么Ason 也说了，就是说比如说我们感知灯光不是因为我们可以感受到灯光，而是灯光会照到我们眼睛里面，我们的身体的某一个部分，它会有一种叫做称之为就是我觉得是神经，它会做出一种很直觉的一个反射，告诉你这个是什么物体，告诉你这是什么颜色。那么我们如果能够把这种感知变成我们直觉的一部分，那就成功了，就会真的说让我们觉得说这是我们身体的一部分，拓展了我们的一个这种感受的一个边界。OK， 那这个问题是这样，还有别的问题吗？
好，谢谢老师。然后我室友
有
一个问题。
你们这个双人组合，你们算是那个
对，双人组合，我刚好碰到。
OK，
我是下午班的同学。
Second question.
Hello, Asian. So my question is, our current mixed reality immersive experience focuses on visuals, such as Unreal Engine, which can be ray traced, making the game as different as reality every second. But personally, I think taste and touch are more likely to make me believe that virtual reality becomes reality. So, what do you think is a better way for an artist to perfect immersion with other senses than visual and auditory?
Fantastic question. Yes, thank you. Actually, this was the reason why I even started all of this research, because I thought that we are so focused on visual displays that we are forgetting the rest of experience. And yeah, if I never thought virtual reality is believable because of what you're saying. And actually, this three-dimensional virtual reality worlds that are immersive are still not very realistic. You know, if you like gaming, it's cool because it's all still cartoon or stylized, but it's not close to reality. You know, if you want to talk about realism, you know, as a virtual experience. Now, if we're not talking about realism, it's a different story. Okay. But your question is about how to make it a more real experience. Haptics, it's the field for developing touch, and that's the next frontier. But because we have immersive audible and audiovisual experiences, but the next frontier will be definitely touch. And so there are a lot of cool devices being invented My underwater haptics is like one of those ideas, but that's for underwater virtual immersive experiences that can also be used for that. So if you can imagine of, using the medium of liquid in order to form and have like, more substance to mold, that's kind of where Yaruka Tact came as an idea rather than a searching device, but then it turned into a kit for survival for some Ars Electronica project. But the idea of sculpting the water to make virtual objects underwater was kind of what inspired that project. And so I will recommend you to look at, there are things with ferrofluid that they're using air, they're using electromagnetic fields for, making bumps in a tablet that don't exist, that you can just feel it. They're just an electromagnetic field. So haptics, that's one field you need to look into. And then for taste and smell, it's very difficult because taste is like electric. So taste can probably be done with a mouthpiece, but smell is what we sometimes think of taste, because taste really, we can only taste sweet and salty, something like this. And then what really makes the complexity of a flavor that we experience is the smell. And the olfactory bulb is here, and we can differentiate trillions of smells, of molecules. So it's a chemical sense, it's like a little patch that, chemicals go in, and then it's like, oh, look, it's this molecule, and it makes us say, oh, it smells like roses, so it's combinations. And they have played with the idea of making like basic building blocks to make different smells and mix them. Like, so, have a printer that can print strawberry, meat, whatever. But I haven't studied too much about that, but you should look into it, like maybe searching for, like basic, building blocks for smell-o-vision. And then there's smell-o-vision, which is a long time ago when they make movie theaters. They wanted to explore smell because, the same as you, they thought, hey, it's gonna be so much more realistic if we put the smell in the movie theater. And so they said, okay, so there's the movie and the guy comes and he brings the pizza, and so it smells like pizza in the movie theater, right? And they put the smell, and then the guy comes and then he also brings roses, and then you smell roses. And then they go outside and, I don't know, they pass through a pasture and they smell fresh grass, and then they go into a bathroom and it smells bad, And so the problem with this is that by the end of the movie, it smelled like pizza, roses, grass, and bathroom at the same time. Because with smell, you can put smell, but you can't take it away. So if you put perfume, you will smell good for a very long time. It will, if you put on a shirt and you don't wash the shirt, you smell it the next day, it still smells like perfume. So the time that it takes to take away the smell is the problem, So that's what happened. And it's called smell-o-vision if you want to look for it. So yeah, look for haptics and smell-o-vision. So yeah, fantastic.
Thank you.
It's I hope we can make more real experiences, so I can enjoy virtual reality. I don't enjoy so much right now. So
yeah, I
let's
think
look
so.
at virtual
Thank you.
reality. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? 还有人有问题吗？因为现在这个时间是给大家来提问哦，大家可以再想一想，跟各种问题都可以，因为 Ason 他这边真的万能的，他什么都知道。那我来问一下，那个 现在正在录像的吴海林同学，你有问题吗？Hello，海林。
啊，在的。
你来提个问吧，因为你一直在录像啊，辛苦。那你来问个问题吧。
我没有什么问题。
你可以用中文问，我可以帮你翻译的。
好家伙，真的不说我帮我们翻译。你继续问。
那我问一下，那个王一丹同学你在吗？王一丹同学，
在的。
你有问题？
喂，
一丹同学，你有问题吗？
喂，能听见吗？
可以听到。你有问题吗？
让我想一想。
那还有谁有问题呢？我们时间也差不多，我们10点半结束，还有6分钟时间，大家快点提问。那我再问一下那个盛莫瑶同学，你在吗？那个你有问题吗？
哦，我在的，能听到吗？
你有问题吗？
其实我看了这么多，看下来，我比较就是震撼的，就是最后，老师在那个疫情期间，就是对那个呼吸机用那个 Arduino 做的一个改造。
我也有同样的震撼。你的问题是什么？
也不能说很算是问题，就是因为像他那个用那个空气还是用什么血压的一个压力啊，让那个装置进行那个膨胀和收缩，然后来供那个呼吸嘛。感觉问什么原理不大合适。
OK，那
主要就是
我有个问题，实际上是你倒引出了我一个问题，就是我觉得用 Arduino 做这东西靠谱吗？我想问一下，会不会坏？
对，我也有想过这个问题。对。
OK，那我们来问一下。
接触不良或者什么的。
Okay. So Asen, we have a question about your the last project,那个什么呼吸机的
The ventilator.
The ventilator. So you use the Arduino to make the ventilator, but we are curious the safety of the device. Is the Arduino can work like stable, or if the whole system is like safe enough to like keep it running for like all the time. So okay. That's a question.
Very good idea. Safety first.
Yeah. I so heard by Arduino. Sometimes it's just not running.
It's not a good medical device. Okay, so it's a prototype. So we got funded. We got some money by the hospital to test it with animals. So we will test with animals with Arduino. And then we will send the data to FDA. And if they approve, we're good to go. But if we manufacture, if we want to make more and more, we will not be using Arduino. We will have engineers look at the system, make sure it's good, but we will be using a microcontroller. We can maybe even use ATmega 320, which is Arduino ATmega chip. So yeah, you can use it. It's just that it's not like with wires like this, we will make it more serious, but you can start a very serious device very serious like medical device with Arduino. Yes, you can. It's just that in the future, Arduino, it's a prototyping tool. So you make the first thing easily, and then as you develop, you don't have to invent or make very hard from the beginning. You just make something, improve, make something, improve, improve, improve until you have a very stable, safe medical device. Yeah. Good
OK，那
question.
Thank you。那现在我觉得是这个刚刚 Ason 说的，实际上蛮有道理。他说 Arduino 是一个 prototype，就是一个原型，快速制作原型的一个工具。那大家实际上它完全实际上是可以做出一个医疗级别的这个设备的，只是说它里面有很多这种插线的方式，会导致里面的连接啊或者什么有问题，所以它需要后期的话，它可能仍然会使用到 Arduino 里面那个芯片。就是那个 Atmo 的那个 chip， 但是呢，他可能要把电路重新要找那个工程师再重新去检查这个电路，然后重新连接，可能会自己开一块 PCB 板去做这个东西，所以这里面其实还是有后面很多工程的一些东西，但是在原理上来讲 ，Arduino 完全是一个可以去制作一个专业设备的这样的一个东西 ，OK， 它的芯片是 OK 的。那么实际上在于这个整个过程中，他也说到，他是先会用 Arduino 做一个原型。那这个我们在学习 Arduino 中，我觉得也可以借鉴啊，就是他会先做原型，然后放到动物上面去测试，测试完之后会把数据给到那个美国的那个相关部门，然后在部门里面获得批准之后，才会用到人体上面，这是一个过程啊。那我觉得，实际上我们这节课是在学习 Arduino， 那大家可能对 Arduino 的一个边界，包括它里面的怎么去使用，都是需要去了解的。那我这里呢，也带大家去问 Ason 一个问题，就是我想问他，就是说怎么样去快速的学习 Arduino， 或者应该怎么样更好的去学习？那我来问他一下。So Ason, so I have one question for all our students. Actually, this semester I'm teaching them Arduino. They are all just like a second year in the college, and they are just new to Arduino. So do you have any recommendations about how to learn Arduino, or how can they learn Arduino like more like efficiently? Do you have any like options or recommendations?
Yes, I have. The best way to learn any tool, it doesn't have to be Arduino, it doesn't have to be a pencil or a spoon. You have to have a project. If you have a good project that you really want to make, you will learn super well because it will drive you to go to places you wouldn't think before because you want to finish your project. So, yeah. You will learn the basics with Paul and, this way, but start thinking big now. Start thinking very big. Start thinking medical device big. Start thinking new airplane big. Start thinking something that you want to see. If you have a good idea and if you are inspired, you will have all that you need to, patience you need to learn, all the most difficult things. So it's all about the intention, and it's all about the purpose of your journey when you learn.
Thank you so much. I think this is very encouraging. And I think that's exactly the way you need a project. Learning is by practice. Learning is by your idea. It's not like a force yourself to learn. It's actually you are encouraged by yourself to achieve your success. So I really agree with you. Yes. Thank you, Ason. And I think we are on the time. So I think this lecture will be end of here. But I'm really like appreciate of you this like very rich content, and I really like what you have been working on. I know since we met in Parsons on 2011, you have been working on this maker and device for like more than 10 years. And I think I want to.
I'm so old, Paul.
Sorry, I don't want to mention that, but it's been 10 years. I'm also like feeling like, oh, the time flew.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to maybe, let's, because now my class is also working on Arduino. So I think, I would like to invite you as our like advisor, in the maybe in this class, we can ask you some questions if students have with like email or like something. And also we want to like present you final projects when they have some like a prototype, we can send it. Yeah, send it to you.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you.
Hey, Paul, you record this, right?
Yes, I have the record.
Can you send me? I'd like to see it. I want to share with my mom.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And happy Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Cheers. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you for your time.
Bye.
Bye bye.好，那同学们，现在我们的这个讲座部分呢就结束了。那下面呢就是各自班级应该由自己的老师带领，然后继续后面的课程。那我们班的同学呢，就是我们继续可以在这个会议室里面来分享你们的，就是我们继续讨论我们之前的项目。哦，对了，我刚刚忘记回答大家就是一个事情，就是我问他问题，就是说怎么样快速去学习 Arduino。Ason 刚刚有说一个非常好的一个点，他说你们必须要有项目，你们必须要有一个大项目，而且是要一个有很好想法的一个项目，你要追寻你们的想法去做，通过你们去实现自己的想法去学习一个工具，这是所有学习的一个窍门。我非常认可这个他说的这句话，就是如果你没有目的的去学习，其实上就像是一个大海里面，你在海中漂泊，你根本不知道岸在哪里。但是如果你看到前面有一个小岛，你朝着那个岛去游，你会加速，你会有一个目标，你会有动力去滑。否则，在一个学习的海洋中，你可能就会失去你的希望，最后你可能就是在这里漂泊，随波逐流。但是一定要有自己的目标，有了目标，你的前进的步伐就会坚定，你的一个速度就会加快，最后你会取得一个成果，而这个成果又会激励你去进行下一步更大胆的尝试。同时，你要想一个更大的一个想法。就是虽然说我们现在刚刚学 Arduino， 我们刚刚接触到这个编程，但你现在就可以去畅想，你要去创造一个宇宙飞船，你要去为人类的火星登陆火星去做出努力，甚至你可以想我要去做一个医疗装置 ，so what， 对吧 ？Arduino 也可以做医疗装备。我们要去想一个大的想法，这个想法才是你真正学习的一个动力。如果你现在困在自己的一个世界里面，那你的学习就是一个只是说是一个小的叫做练习啊，但是真正学习是通过一个想法去实现，蛮激励的。好，那我们今天这个讲座，我觉得就先到这里，然后各自可以到自己老师的那个班级里面，那我们班的同学就可以留下。好，就这样。那下面呢，就是我们班的同学。